Hi, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order of Tuesday, March 11th, 2020 for the Boulder Valley Board of Education. Laura, would you please call the roll? Whoops. Okay, just kind of blew that. Sorry.
Garcia.
Here.
Gebhardt.
Here.
Marquis.
Here.
Myers.
Here.
Sargent.
Here.
Sweeney Moran.
Here.
Ziss.
Here. Thank you. Thank you. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you so much for joining us here. We're so excited to have a lot of people participate in our meeting this evening. I'd like to remind everybody that the mission of the Boulder Valley School District is to create challenging, meaningful, and engaging learning opportunities so that all children thrive and are prepared for successful, civically engaged lives. So we'll start first with the superintendent's report.
Board President Marquis, members of the boards, I want to start by thanking so many of our citizens for being here. We do this almost every Tuesday, so hopefully some of you will come back and stay engaged in what's happening in our school system. I'd like to start by providing the board an update on a topic that is top of mind for many of us, and that is COVID-19, or the coronavirus. And so I've asked Stephanie Farron, our Director of Health Services, who's at the podium, to give us just a brief update on where things are at. As board members and community members, as you know, we sent out some guidance yesterday around travel and are continuing to monitor that. I'd like to commend Governor Polis for the excellent job that I believe he's doing in keeping the public updated on new cases, where those cases are, and how this is progressing. So with that, I would turn the floor over to Stephanie.
Thanks very much for having me. Like Dr. Anderson said, I'd just like to update you on the planning that's been happening up to now and where we are. So we have a pandemic incident action plan that is available on our website under current topics, coronavirus, and that's accessible for anyone to see. We are using the preparedness matrix, which is also available through that document. We are on level B in our preparedness strategies, which really means that it necessitates more coordinated planning around field trips, other activities, learning options, cleaning and communications with our partners, both internally, with students and families, and with our local public health partners. There are annexes that correspond with the preparedness matrix for every staff function in the district, and those have also been distributed out to principals and other department heads to share with their staff. We've distributed additional cleaning guidances so that schools and teachers and other staff in the schools have updated cleaning guidance and are reviewing that, and we've asked teachers and other staff to assist. We've also asked our staff and our students and our families to have a heightened awareness around illness and to please stay home if you're sick. Please stay home if you're sick. And then our nurses are working with administrators also to identify any students who might have immunosuppression or are medically fragile, to reach out and work with them to find out how they're doing and what kind of supports that they need. Like Dr. Anderson mentioned, we have canceled field trips to international field trips that are for level 2 and 3 travel advisories. That's China, Iran, Italy, and South Korea. And then trips within the United States that were scheduled to states that have declared a state of emergency have been canceled, and I believe that's 15 right now. That changes constantly. And this applies to BVSD staff trips as well. Other school events are still being held based on our current guidelines, but those are changeable at any time. And communication went out last evening to parents alerting them that those field trips would be canceled. We are reminding staff and families around personal trips, especially with spring break coming up, that there is a potential risk of traveling, that you might be quarantined when you return, or you might actually get stuck somewhere and need to stay there, and just to think through that before you go. We have been seeing some additional absences in schools. Some families are electing to keep students home. We are still in flu season, cold and flu season, so we're constantly having students that are diagnosed with flu that are out, but of course those illnesses, are showing up all as respiratory illnesses for us. And we are encouraging staff also to stay home when they're sick, and asking them if they need assistance around sick time or leave to contact HR and their principals. And like Dr. Anderson mentioned, we're sending a lot of communication out to families and daily communication now to our principals. All right.
Board members, before I continue with my comments, are there any questions that any of you might have for Stephanie? We'll do the very best job that we can to answer those.
Richard?
Stephanie?
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the website now, and I'm trying to see if it's in Spanish and I can't seem to find it.
The upper right-hand corner.
You're looking
On
You're looking
menu?
for the option to translate. The whole page will translate for you.
Ah. Well. Okay, I'll figure that out.
Yep.
Lisa?
Thanks.
I think it's great that
Sorry.
There we go. I think it's great we're asking our teachers to stay home when they're sick. Since we know that someone can get diagnosed with COVID-19 and continue to be both sick and contagious for weeks afterwards, what are we doing to make sure that our teachers are supported in that if they're diagnosed and they need to stay home for longer than their sick leave allows?
Like I mentioned, we're asking them to work with HR and their principal to identify what kind of options are available for them as far as sick time. It's really on a case-by-case basis.
I'm going to ask Mike Rados to come up and give a little bit of a deeper of an answer around our sick bank, which is an opportunity for our employees.
So good evening. To answer your question, each of our employee groups have an extended sick leave option, and the teachers in particular have a sick leave bank. So they can cash in on that if something were to happen where they're diagnosed and they need to stay home. They have up to 30 days of additional sick leave on top of what they already have to help them out with that area. One of the groups that we're working on is the unrepresented groups, the tutors, the tag tutors, the tutors. We're going to be working with that group to figure out for COVID-19 what kind of policy, what kind of plan we can use for them as a sick leave bank, looking pretty much like what the classified staff as well.
Do we have any idea how many teachers, at what point would that sick bank be overwhelmed? How many teachers would need to utilize their full 30 days before we weren't able to continue?
Great question. I don't have an answer for you on that, but I can get that. But that's a great question. We have talked about that in terms of what that would mean, but I don't have an exact number what that threshold would be. So sorry about that. I wish I could answer that.
Speaker, sorry. You're good? All right, let's move on.
Thank you, Stephanie. And just thanks to our team who has been meeting daily as we try to keep up with this information that is continuing to change and evolve. In my last comment, board members, as you know, as has been recently covered in the media and as I've been sharing with you, there was an incident at one of our schools last week with the use of minstrel songs. And I'd like to just take a moment to kind of talk about that. I know that we have lots of friends here that are going to be able to talk about that to you this evening. And want to just start by thanking our friends at the NAACP. I see several of them in the audience that are going to speak to that. So you know, and so the public knows, we meet quarterly. I had the chance to visit with the NAACP. They invited me in the fall and had a chance to come to one of their meetings. They're a valuable partner in where we want to go as a district, and so I wanted to start by thanking them. And I want to just state unequivocally that I do not believe that it's appropriate for minstrel songs to be sung as entertainment. It's inappropriate. Minstrel songs were originally created to demean African Americans, and in BVSD, we cannot stand by any material that was created for the purpose of demeaning any person or groups of people. I just want to be very clear on the record on where I stand on that. And it's also important to note that as these are inappropriate in that context, that we should not be censoring the material from all contexts. And that may be appropriate to teach about the lyrics of a minstrel song as part of a lesson about the history of racism and impact of racism in our current reality. And I think that can be an important part of our curriculum. We'll be working immediately to remove minstrel songs from our elementary school music curriculum. That's something that we'll be doing immediately. But I want to make sure that I'm very clear in stating that this is not a teacher failure or a school failure, that I believe this is a system failure. And that these songs and materials have been part of our approved curriculum. Now, we haven't approved music curriculum in a while, and that's another thing that I think that we need to address. But I think there are other and better ways for our teachers to teach the state standards to meet these instructional objectives without using these songs. You know, as we think about this situation, I believe that this is a symptom of several larger issues that we have been addressing and we've identified through our strategic plan. That's really important work that we hope that our folks that are here tonight will continue to work with us on. And that's the needs for a standards-based scope and sequence pre-K through 12 to guide our teachers through the district on what we value, and that a scope and sequence that's culturally responsive to the needs of our students. That we need common and aligned instructional practices to challenge and engage our students in all content areas, and that we need a stronger focus and a continued focus on cultural responsiveness. I know that there's lots of work that's been done, and there's lots of work that continues to need to be done, both on our systems and the training of our people. And I would close by saying that I'm excited that we have folks here tonight to engage in this conversation. I think that's incredible testament to our community about being involved and paying attention to what we're doing. And it's going to take all of us working together to support all of our students. And when I say all of us working together, it's not just folks in schools, it's folks within our community, folks that have kids and don't have kids. And so I'm excited that we have so many folks here tonight and hope that they stay engaged, and just want to thank everybody for coming. And I'm looking forward to hearing the comments and the continued partnership. And that's all I have for my comments.
Okay, questions for Dr. Anderson? Okay, so then we're going to move on to our next item, which is public participation. Okay. The board recognizes the value of public comment on issues related to the operation of the schools. To ensure that our meeting is conducted in an orderly manner, we ask that persons who address the board please confine your comments to matters that are germane to the business of the school district. Speakers on agenda items will be heard first, followed by those speaking to non-agenda items. Please limit your presentation to 2 minutes. If we go over the first hour, public comment will continue at the end of the meeting. And just a reminder, if you can't stay within 2 minutes, and I will interrupt you at 2 minutes because we want to hear from as many people that are here, and it's not because I think that thought isn't important. We just stick to the 2 minutes. We read all of our emails. So please also email us, and we really are good about it. We actually don't get that many, so it's pretty manageable for us to do that. So please do email as well. Recognize that students often attend or view our meetings. Speakers' remarks, therefore, should be suitable for an audience that includes kindergarten through 12th grade students. The board president may interrupt, warn, or terminate a participant's statement that is unrelated to the business of the district or inappropriate for pre-K through 12 students. All right, so there is a timing system. It's right here. And sorry, we were having a little technical difficulty with outlets, which is why I was under the desk for just a minute. She will begin the timer when your time begins. You will see the timer count down as you speak. And will you do a yellow card? There's the yellow card. So that's when you have 30 seconds. And then at 10 seconds, there is the orange card. And then please wrap up your comments so that we can hear from everybody. And it would be great if we're at an hour and we have 5 people to go, we're going to squeeze you in. So if we can all stick to 2 minutes, you won't have to stay until 10. So there's a good incentive there. And the other thing is, if you need a translator, and I don't think and we need to talk about this and put it in our policy, but I realize we don't have a way to give someone 4 minutes who needs translation services. So if you, I don't know if anyone is using a translator today, but then you could have 4 minutes temporarily until we figure out a way to do this. We've been doing it informally, and please remind me to bring it up in agenda setting because I meant to do a policy change to help with our community members who need translation services. Okay, so we will start with our agenda items, speakers on agenda, and the first and only speaker on agenda items is Rick Brennan.
I didn't anticipate quite the crowd that you've got today. The effort to prepare Boulder Valley schools for participation in social distancing in response to the COVID-19 outbreak should take on increased urgency. Shutting down traditional school environments is a powerful way to lower the average exposure to a virus for any community. Just because the number of cases in Colorado is low doesn't mean that we're immune or stronger than the Chinese or the Italians. It means we're later to see the onset of the outbreak. Italy had 3 COVID-19 cases 3 weeks ago. Now the entire nation of 60 million people is essentially quarantined. In Hong Kong, schools have been closed for a month with no end in sight. 2 days ago, The Atlantic magazine published an article titled, "What Could Happen If the Coronavirus Closed Schools for Days, Weeks, or Even Months?" And I'll quickly summarize their work. After 2 weeks, kids in the United States would be considerably behind schedule in their learning curricula, and many parents would be acutely inconvenienced without the daily meal service and childcare that school inherently provides. After a month away from their usual school routines, American students would be even further behind, and at this point, their performance on standardized tests and entrance exams for the following year would be in jeopardy. Yesterday, my wife, Tracy, distributed suggestions for how to prepare for a transition to e-learning to teachers and staff at Fairview High School. The responses varied from, "There's no way I could do that today," to, "I've got most of my material online already, but holding classes virtually would be a different thing altogether." Many students in the Boulder Valley School District will need assistance if we make this change. They don't have the training, the broadband connection, computer, or software to participate. Transitioning an entire school district to a non-traditional learning environment would not be easy, even if we had several years to do it.
Okay, and that's time.
I got one more sentence. Making that transition in the days or weeks we might have requires an extraordinary effort and should enlist the entire community. Thanks.
Liz Barczyk.
Dear BVSD School Board members, good evening. Thank you so much for your service to our public schools in Boulder Valley. My name is Liz Barczyk, and I'm the AVID coordinator at Angevine Middle School. Public Achievement has partnered with AVID Advancement via Individual Determination classes in BVSD for almost 15 years. Together, we pair undergraduate students with first-generation college-bound BVSD youth to address school and community-based social justice issues impacting the lives of students. Today, we visit the school board meeting on behalf of AVID classes and the Public Achievement Program at Angevine Middle School, Casey Middle School, and Centaurus High School. During this academic school year, almost 25% of students involved in our programming stated that the top issue of concern impact their lives and community was family separation through deportation. During this school year, our students have surveyed their peers and staff to understand what resources are available to students and teachers regarding family separation, gathered student testimonies to highlight the reality of the impact of family separation on student mental health and focus at school, generated requests and support for staff hiring and training practices to support students from undocumented and mixed status backgrounds, and worked with administration to make access to school-based resources for mixed status families more visible. Tonight, we will hear the voices of 12 students, grades 7th through 11th, who are asking to work together to prioritize culturally relevant resources and training in BVSD that directly address the reality of family separation on our students and families in BVSD. We look forward to working together to make these requests a reality here.
Okay, Vanessa Casasola Mendez.
Good afternoon. My name is Vanessa Casasola, and I am part of the Angevine Middle School 7th grade family separation. Our 7th grade family separation group chose this topic because we saw how it affects us personally and our Lafayette community. We have seen it affect school behavior, performance, and mental health. We believe there is a disconnect between teachers and students surrounding this issue, and that's the reason for this topic. We want students to be more open about this issue and then understand that whatever they're going through, teachers will be there. We also want teachers to be more aware of this if their students go through this issue. Now my partner, Aretzi Palafox, will tell you more about this.
Aretzi?
Hi, I'm Aretzi Palafox. I'm part of the 7th grade family separation group at Angevine Middle School. We as a group are here to bring awareness about the students that are impacted. First, we want to inform our schools, and from there we want to inform our communities. We made posters. One of these posters have personal testimonials and other statistics about family separation. These posters will be put around our schools here at Angevine Middle School. We also made videos to help inform others about this issue and who it is affecting to be in our daily announcements in our schools. Now my teammate Arlette will finish our presentation.
Arlette?
Hi, I'm Arlette Aldama, and I'm also part of the 7th grade Angevine Middle School family separation group. We want these posters and this video to spread awareness and let teachers know that this is happening to their students. We want students to be able to open up about their experiences, and for teachers to be more aware and prepared for when any of their students might go through family separation. Would you be willing to support us during this process of informing other schools and communities about this issue? Thank you for your time. We appreciate this opportunity to present this issue that we care about so much.
Joanna?
Hi, I'm Jessie Lozano, and I'm part of the 8th grade Angevine Middle School family separation group. We are working to find more resources for teachers and counselors to help students going through family separation in our school. We chose this issue because we saw the need for change. As Angevine students, we noticed the lack of resources our school offers to migrant families. It is important that we have these resources available because kids can't focus on their education if the thought of their families being deported is often with them. It's in their lives, their fears, and their nightmares. How can kids focus when these fears are constantly with them? Being a minority in a classroom, we believe everyone looks at us differently, wondering if the teacher has the same thoughts. On our way home from school, we wonder what we will find on the other side of the door. Will it be our families ready for a hug or an empty house? How can students concentrate on school when we often ponder about these possibilities? We can't, and that's why we need the support from teachers and counselors. Now, Joanna will talk about what we did last semester.
Hello, I'm Joanna Nunez, and I'm also part of the 8th grade Angevine Middle School family separation group. Last semester, we did research on this topic and gave out surveys. We asked 62 people if they knew someone who went through family separation, and 50% said yes. 84% said they didn't think family separation is okay. This semester, we have interviewed teachers and counselors to ask about the resources they were provided at school to support students going through family separation. We have also created a video with the 7th graders, and we are creating posters for us to hang on our lockers. The goal of the posters and video is for students and staff to be more informed and create a conversation about family separation at our school. We are asking for teachers and counselors to have more training to support students going through family separation. We also brought a list of resources our counselors have, teachers' thoughts on the issue, and a list of what we believe could make things better. We want teachers to have resources to help students going through family separation if they don't feel comfortable going to a counselor. We want teachers and staff across the district to have resources for students going through family separation, and we're asking for your help and support to do this. Thank you for your time.
Jacqueline?
Hello, my name is Jacqueline Martinez. I am the Casey Middle School 7th grade AVID and Public Achievement class. We are here to represent our family separation group and all of the work that we have done this year. We knew that family separation affects a lot of people, and we surveyed our peers to see how we could help. Our results were that students felt a lack of support and resources for students who struggle with mental health, as well as the result of family separation. Now my partner Aiden Flores will take over to tell you about the rest of our presentation.
And Aiden?
Hi, my name is Aiden Flores, and I am also a part of the Casey Middle School 7th grade Family Separation Group. In working with our school and school across the district to make sure that new hires are undocu-friendly. These people are trained to work against discrimination against immigrants and supports undocumented students and families in the unique challenges they face. This person should be working for and with undocumented students. We also ask that all of our staff is trained to support undocumented students, mixed status families, and students who struggle with the effects of family separation. Thank you.
Elias?
Hi, my name is Dulce. I am in the 8th grade PA Family Separation Group. When students' loved ones get deported, it really affects their mental health and their ability to work in school. This seriously affects their learning. This matters because we don't have a space to talk about this issue, and our counselors aren't specialized in this area. This is important for students because they can't focus in school and could feel isolated. We have talked to students at our school who are worried about family members being deported. They mentioned that they don't have people to talk to when this happens. Students should have support when they are going through family separation or are worried about a loved one being deported. Here is Laura, one of my group members, who will continue to talk about our project.
Okay, Laura.
Hi, my name is Laura Garza. I'm also in the 8th grade AVID PA Family Separation Group. This year at Casey Middle School, we have been working on recommendations for a new counselor. We have created a petition with a list of recommendations. For example, the counselor needs to be bilingual in Spanish and English. This counselor should make an open schedule for any student who needs to talk about this issue. At Latinx Family Night, we shared our recommendations and what we are looking for in a new counselor. We recommend that BVSD encourages all teachers and counselors to be trained on how to support students that are going through family separation and know about resources to help.
Emily?
Hi, my name is Angel Lozano Diaz, and I'm a junior at Centaurus High School. Through AVID and the PA program, we were able to identify family separation as something that really impacted our community. And to clarify what people knew about this issue, we conducted a survey that involved students, teachers, and parents. Some of the questions we asked were along the lines of, where in the community of Lafayette are there spaces for people experiencing family separation to go for support? And why do you believe immigrant families don't feel safe in today's circumstances? From this survey, we were able to discover that Sister Carmen is a well-known resource across students, parents, and families within our CHS community. We also spoke with our Centaurus Vice Principal, Augusto de Lora, and he was able to provide us with some of the resources provided by BVSD and Boulder County. One of them is Know Your Rights, that is in English and Spanish from Boulder County, which we believe is actually really useful, it being bilingual. And then another resource is Family Emergency Checklist from Colorado People's Alliance. As a result of our findings, we decided to create a campaign that would bridge students, faculty and staff, and more importantly, families to these resources. I really hope you guys could help us out, make this something district-wide. And now I will pass it on to Emily, my partner, and she'll talk about our campaign.
Hello, my name's Emily. Our desired goal is to spread awareness of existing resources throughout not only Centaurus and Lafayette, but also through BVSD. Our campaign is to ensure that the materials such as our blueprinted pamphlet should be available in counseling offices and main offices across the district, and as well as providing them to teachers. We want to break the stigma behind family separation and not only spark the conversation to this prevalent issue, but also to express the support from each other as well from BVSD. We have learned that resources are out there and they're not seen, and many are unaware that they even exist. And this is what we're here to change today. Are you willing to work with us to make sure these pamphlets are available and are in all counseling offices, main offices, as well as your online platforms throughout BVSD schools? Thank you.
Okay. And next is Catherine Powers.
Hello, my name is Catherine Powers. I teach 7th grade AVID and 7th grade social studies in the bilingual program at Casey Middle School. The students speaking tonight reflect the sentiments of so many in our community. We have consistently underestimated the impact of the deportation crisis on our families. I have students who miss weeks of school when parents get deported. I have students who lose sleep watching out for ICE out of their windows. I have parents who are afraid to come to meetings at school. So many of our students are directly impacted, losing family members, neighbors, facing economic stressors, and living in fear. And our schools can better serve and engage our community if we proactively recognize this reality. That's it. Thank you so much.
Dorian?
Hi, my name is Dorian Lancaster. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. I am in 4th grade at a BVSD school. In 3rd grade in music class, we had an upcoming performance. 2 of the songs were Old Dan Tucker and Cotton Eye Joe. I was excited to sing and dance to these songs until my parents taught me their history. I was like, wow. I am shocked that these people at school didn't tell us, the children, that these are our minstrel songs. I felt disappointed and angry that the teachers aren't telling the children the real meaning of these songs. Is BVSD going to keep whitewashing history and not tell us the truth? Or going to do the right thing and not have the children singing these blackface minstrel songs? Even now, in my school, some classes do Just Dance, which is a dancing thing on YouTube, to Cotton Eye Joe. I was dumbfounded when I heard it. I don't want to sing or dance the racist songs, and I don't want my friends to either. Thank you.
Okay. Ashley Jones? And Ashley has 4 minutes.
Thank you. As part of my preparation this evening, I watched a previous
2017 board meeting where a lot of good discussion was had about the benefits of lower class size. I also spoke with many other parents and teachers. I think most people agree that class size matters. Today I'm here as a concerned parent of elementary age children at Louisville Elementary School. My son is in 4th grade and my daughter is in 2nd. In particular, the 2nd grade class size at LES currently has 28 to 29 kids per each of the 3 classes. And at the beginning of the year, that number was even higher. The high class sizes at LES have come as a shock to me, having moved from Washington State, where the state mandated a maximum elementary class size of 24 students, plus we had all-day kindergarten. I have also been disappointed by the lack of support from the administration. I feel that our school's administration is not advocating for our children, so I'm here tonight to advocate for my kids, all the kids at LES, and the wonderful teachers who I imagine have to be burnt out with that many kids. The BVSD budget formula indicates elementary schools are staffed on a base ratio of 1 to 24.58 for classroom teachers. That doesn't include paras, specialists, librarians. Looking at the enrollment statistics over the past year, I expected that LES would have had at least 21 teachers this year. We have 20 classroom teachers at LES. Why is this? We certainly could have used that extra teacher in 2nd grade this year. With kids as many as 30 in a classroom at the beginning of the year. This was not a surprise that occurred over the summer. In fact, these were the same numbers projected in spring last year. So I ask, why are the schools not being allowed to use their full classroom teacher budgets based on that 1 to 24.58 ratio? And where's the accountability and the transparency? When I asked this question to our school and regional district administrators, our principal said things like, it's unfortunate that students don't fit in nice, neat packages of 24.58, and we keep these reserves in case we have a building need at the school. These are not acceptable responses to me. It was also discussed at that meeting that the school is meeting the teacher contract maximum goals set by grade. The teacher contract maximum goals range from 26 at the lower levels, 29 at 2nd grade level, and up to 31 in 4th and 5th. It appears that teachers are being allocated based by grade on these contract maximums. The administration explained that the schools add a para, the contract ratios go over by 1, and they don't add another teacher until each class size goes over by 2. So that means we'd have to have 31 kids in a 2nd grade classroom before we would get another teacher. This again is not acceptable to me when I expect, based on the budget base ratio, that additional teacher could have been hired for the school, placed where it is needed, rather than staying in reserves. Plus, other schools in our district do have lower ratios. In short, I'd like to see smaller class sizes overall for the betterment of our kids, but as a start, I would like to see actually allocating teachers to schools based on that 24.58 ratio, not the contract goal maximums. I'm here to request that when considering budget for next school year, that this be the approach. And going forward, I'm hopeful that by bringing my concern to the attention of the board, that workable solutions to achieve lower class sizes can be identified, because I know it is possible. It is done in many other states, and I know we can figure it out too. Thank you.
Karina Lemenas, and I'm sorry about the pronunciation.
Hello, my name is Karina Lemenas, and my son Adam is a 2nd grader also at Louisville Elementary and one of 28 students in his class. Louisville Elementary strives to be a positive, nurturing, and successful learning environment, and I understand that BVSD works hard to support and reinforce those very goals. Back in August, when we found out we would only have 3 teachers and our class sizes would push the maximums, I noticed many instances where the goals that LES and BVSD strive for seem at odds with these large class sizes. On the LES website, it is said that we focus on the whole child to provide students with the foundation they need to thrive and reach their fullest potential. Unfortunately, we cannot focus on the whole child when we have a student-teacher ratio of 1 to 28. One-on-one time is extremely limited. Teachers rely on volunteers to fill the gaps in class, and at LES, we are lucky to have teachers who are parents who are responsive. BVSD, however, should not rely on parents to fill the teacher gap. I recently received this sheet about CMAS testing that's going to be upcoming for my 3rd grader. Some of the very goals listed here are completely at odds with large class sizes, student success being a top goal. When listening to a past board meeting from November 2017, Tom Mears quoted a study that exactly focuses on class size reduction, and it was found that for every 5 extra students in a class, off-task behavior goes up by 25%. From first grade to second grade, our class sizes have gone up by 5 students since the ratios have exactly gone up. And those 5 students potentially need more time, attention, intervention from teachers, and so we're already stretching the limited resources. Lastly, again on this sheet, school reputation, district reputation. The quote, I quote here, the scores, the better we do on our tests, the better our grades on sites like CDE, SchoolView, niche school grades, etc. These grades are in part what prospective parents use to compare.
Thank you. Please send an email. Jeanette Rodez. No? Okay, sorry. Jude Lansman. I have a different list.
Hi, I'm Jude Lansman. I am representing, I'm chair of the Freedom Fund of the NAACP Boulder County. And the Freedom Fund is largely responsible for the cultural programming that we put out to the community. So I appreciate Rob Anderson, our superintendent, considering us a partner, and your comments on minstrel songs, which is what I'm going to speak about. I am also an artist, performing artist, and I'm also a parent of 6 children born and raised in Boulder, 4 of whom graduated from Boulder High. So I'm familiar with the school district, and I will say that there is no excuse for 2020 for us to be discussing blackface minstrel songs being taught to our students. As you heard, it is demeaning to the self-esteem and to the self-image, positive self-image that education and particularly the arts promote. I'm going to read an excerpt. It will be familiar to some of the school board members. It was in an email that I sent from a musicologist and music educator. I think it's significant that she is not American and her perspective is quite clear and objective. Dr. Emil Laeva writes, "Blackface minstrel songs, the racist relic right under our noses, must be recognized for what they are and removed from children's music programs if we want to move forward towards justice and equity as a society." And I know that Boulder Valley has justice and racial equity goals. She writes, "Music teachers throughout the United States are quietly removing songs like Oh Susanna, Jimmy Crack Corn, and Camptown Races from their lesson plans. Educators are realizing that these songs, and many others, have racist roots in the tradition of blackface minstrelsy. Blackface minstrelsy was the most popular form of musical entertainment in America from the 1840s to the early 20th century. The theatrical and musical act consisted of white performers coloring their skin with burned cork and ridiculing African Americans in blatantly racist terms. Stock characters included Jim Crow, an illiterate plantation darky whose rubbery, resilient body was resistant to pain, and Zip Coon, the dandy who continuously tried and failed to fit into white middle-class culture. Entertainers caricatured black musicians by playing banjos, an instrument brought from Africa and adapted by enslaved Africans, and spoke in caricature of black dialect. While blackface contained an element of fascination with black culture, the minstrelsy's popularity and success was driven by the stereotypes it perpetuated of black Americans as buffoonish, naive, devious, prone to violence, superstitious, lazy, and servile. That is not a stereotype that we want to even unintentionally send to our children. So I thank you. Is that my 4 minutes? You have 30 seconds. Okay. So thank you for saying what you said, and we hope to see these songs eliminated from our children's education and understand that there is an intersectionality of music and history that is important to understand, particularly with the arts. Thank you.
Deborah Darnell.
First of all, I want to genuinely thank you for your dedicated service to our district. We have an amazing district. And I'm Deb Darnell, and I'd like to present a short proposal regarding our gifted and talented advisors, GTAs, whose jobs designation is tag tutors. I will be reading from my notes to stay within the time box allowance. I've been kind of called the gift of the gab, and so I want to stay with my notes so I can be concise and get to the point. So, you have packets before you with some slides, and there's no way I can verbally cover all of that, so it's in your packets. And at the end of the slides, there is also an info sheet attached to the back to give you more information. What is my ask? My ask is that the GTAs move into Unit E BVPA. You may ask, why? Well, there's three simple things, simply to say that there are some compliances with the CD requirements to decrease turnover in high-value, low-cost GTAs, and to increase fairness and equity for cognitive diverse populations. So let's look at each one. Why number one? CDE requires an advanced learning plan per student. Our rather aggressive estimate is around 120 minutes per student per year to generate this document. The process is documented on the slide, but leaves out some additional review steps which would create a Kaizen feedback loop. The short version, as seen in the examples on the slides, is that the yearly budget provided by an average of 8 hours per week for GTAs is anywhere from 20 hours a year to 788 hours a year deficit. This means we have to short circuit the ALP process and potentially create CDE compliance issues for this district. Not to mention another very important problem. There is no budget or time provided for social, emotional, or enrichment programming for our gifted population. Why two? BVSD is blessed with a unique student population, very high in identified gifted students, 15%, where the national average is between 3 and 5%. And there are accompanying parents who constitute a high-value, low-cost labor pool. Unfortunately, the compensation level providing this lower-cost labor pool appear to be undercutting expectations enough that extremely high churn rates are created, resulting in program quality and inconsistency issues and loss of trust with other teachers, faculty, and staff. Two GTAs are shown as example on the slide. One who is able to rely on partner financial support and what they were able to accomplish, and then a GTA closer to BVSD norms and the resulting reduction in quality at a district Flagstaff GT program. Why three? Equity and diversity should address all types of diversity, including diversities in degrees of academic focus. Our gifted student population does not tend to pull from extracurricular budgets, as their favored programs tend to be at a much lower cost. Unfortunately, these programs don't tend to receive levels of investment sufficient to help these students achieve BVSD goal number 2.
Okay.
Is that it?
Thank you.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Christine Johnson.
Hi. I'm the co-chair of the NAACP Boulder County Branch Education Committee. I want to clarify something that the superintendent said. We're really happy with what you said, but we're not asking for censorship. We're asking the district to do better and to be proactive so that we don't have to come and ask for these things. I also want to clarify that you want to take a look at early childhood education because we'd been in communication with them for quite a while. We sent a resolution to the board and superintendent that was approved by our branch, and I want to highlight some of the things that were in that resolution. We would like to see the school district prioritize and expedite strategic plan item 1A, the standards-based scope and sequence, with a culturally and linguistically diverse lens. We'd also like to see you do the same thing with item 1B, to define and implement common and aligned instructional practices with a culturally and linguistically diverse lens. That language is not in your strategic plan, and we're afraid that it won't be emphasized. And finally, we'd like to see you define and put into practice culturally responsive principles and best practices that challenge inequity and bias with the understanding that these intersect with instruction. If you had guidelines in place for responsive teaching practices around oppressed people, then we probably wouldn't be here tonight making our ask. And finally, we'd like to see you, as part of your alignment and prioritization with standards and curricular materials, to develop a rubric for prioritizing culturally and linguistically diverse practices and materials. And thank you very much.
Karen Knapp.
Hi, good evening. First, I want to thank the members of the school board for taking the time to hear our concerns. I know you all feel our children and their education is of the utmost importance, otherwise you wouldn't be here tonight. So I just want to thank you and thank you for your time. I am speaking with a group of other parents about significant concerns I have about classroom sizes at my children's school and the BVSD system in general. My daughters are in second grade at Louisville Elementary School, and at the start of the class, start of the year, their class had 29 kids within their class. It's been a difficult year, to say the least, for my daughters to start off with. A lot of somatic complaints with headaches, stomach aches, emotional outbursts at home, a lot of school refusal. And while certainly multifactorial, I believe class size has had a negative impact on their experience and the overall mental health of them and some of their classmates, which I feel is really sad and disappointing to me. I volunteer in the classroom and see firsthand the stress for the kids and the teachers. The teachers have to use noise-canceling headphones, cardboard dividers. They have to use microphones oftentimes to be heard, and these elements as well to keep kids on task. I feel this impacts not only the relationships teachers are able to build with their students, especially the students that need a little extra time and support. I also feel this impacts the student-to-student interactions and relationships and friendships, and the kind of community and working together that that kind of the group tables usually foster. Children need to have attention not only from parents, but especially with other non-parent adults, and building supportive relationships with teachers are one of the most important. These relationships build strong bonds. They help kids build self-esteem. I feel for the mental health of students, we need to make decreased class size a priority. I have spoken with many experienced teachers who feel they don't have, with 29 to 30 kids, a manageable classroom, and I want to support our great teachers and our great schools. Thank you.
Louisa Matias. No, Beth Egan. Sorry.
Good evening. My name is Beth Egan. I'm a parent of 3 BVSD students who participated in TAG programs at Bear Creek, Southern Hills, and Fairview High School, 2 of whom have graduated. I'm here tonight because I believe that the social, emotional, and academic support offered by the TAG educators at those schools were critical to my children's ability to thrive emotionally and academically in school. At Southern Hills, my children did a myriad of the programs: Math Olympiads, Math Counts, Brain Bowls, Solar Challenge, and they came to TAG lunches. 2 of my kids took an independent study class that was taught and I believe was designed by the TAG educator at the school, one pursuing writing in the class, the other independently pursuing robotics. But just as important as those academic programs is the social emotional mentoring that these programs offer to these kids. My youngest, when he was very unhappy at Fairview, sought out the TAG educator at TAG lunches, and she very quickly helped him find two solutions. One was she encouraged him to do the CU concurrent enrollment program, and he is much happier now, enrolled both at Fairview and at CU. And the other was she helped him work with some other students on designing a computer program that's now being piloted at school and that was independent. I know all this could sound like just giving more resources to kids who possibly don't need them, but I really came here tonight to say these things are critical for their sense of belonging in the school. And for two of my three kids, they wouldn't have completed their education at BVSD without the support that these programs offered them. Thank you.
Kelly, Christine Marin.
Hi, Christine. First of all, thank you for what you do and for the opportunity for us to speak tonight as parents. I have a second grader at Louisville Elementary, and like many of the other parents here, I'm here to advocate for my child because I don't feel like she is well represented. I have two other children who will eventually be students there as well, I hope. My family moved to Louisville specifically because of BVSD, because you have an excellent reputation. Unfortunately, we've been really disappointed, and it's been a very hard year. Like many of the other parents mentioned, class size is a big concern. As a background, my daughter's in a classroom with 29 other 8-year-old children. I volunteer in that classroom weekly, so I'm very familiar with that. I volunteered in her first grade and her kindergarten class as well, and I've seen a big change in her this year. At the beginning of the year, many of us parents got together to express our concerns to our school administration. I believe that many of those concerns were largely dismissed and not addressed. After much pressing, her teacher was eventually granted 45 minutes of para time. 45 minutes. It's not a lot. So I see three key issues. I think number one, obviously, is classroom size, which many of us have expressed. I believe that this is challenging for literally every child in the classroom, whether they are high achievers or whether they are struggling. I see that many children are off task, and I believe that that goes hand in hand with the large classroom size. It is largely challenging to her teacher as well, and I can't imagine how long her teacher can really handle this kind of classroom size. So in a way, I'm here to advocate for her teachers. I also agree with Dr. Knapp, who recently, just a minute, mentioned ago, mental health. I've seen a large decline in my child's confidence in her mental health. And just from my perspective, what I've seen with my kid this year is she's gone from this very bright child who loved school to having anxiety and to being nervous about school and having school denial. I've seen also a lack of differentiated learning. I'm running out of time, but I don't see that. Last year she was differentiated into a math group and she became the school nurse and it never came back. So I think that's really important to continue.
Kelly Canner.
Hi, my name's Kelly Canner, and should we wait? Okay. Bye, guys. Good job. Good job.
You guys did such a great job. Good job.
All right. Thanks for waiting.
Yes, of course. My name is Kelly Canner, and I am also here in support of smaller class sizes. I have a second grader at Louisville Elementary, much like many of the moms who have spoken before me tonight. And my son started second grade with 30 kids in his class. And I'd like to ask each of you, if you had a second grade student and there were 30 kids, what kind of learning that you think would be taking place in that classroom? And when I asked his teacher said, there are 5 kids in this class who need 100% of my time. And he said, but I have 30 kids. And so I think that each kid should get a 30th of my time, but 5 of them need all of my time. And so then what happens to the other 25 is what I'd like to ask. I'm definitely very concerned about this, and At the beginning of the school year, we thought, oh, we'll get another class, and that's what we kind of heard at the end of last year. At the beginning of the school year, we didn't get another class. And then we felt like we were being very reactive. And so I'm asking tonight, what can we do to be proactive? What can we do to make sure that we have smaller class sizes? BVSD talks a lot about equity. They talk a lot about the achievement gap. Well, what can we do to make that better? And I think class sizes is a huge piece of it. And I talked to other districts, Jeffco, St. Vrain. They have 19 kids in a 5th grade class, 23 in a kindergarten class, and that's not BVSD. And this is supposed to be one of the best districts in the state, and I think you're failing the students in this district. We have to have smaller class sizes. I think it's imperative, and every student deserves it.
Brittany Ramsey.
Thank you.
All right. Hi, I'm Brittany Ramsey. I am the mom of 3 kids at Louisville Elementary, a kindergartner and twin boys in 2nd grade. The class sizes this year have been around 29 and 30 between the 3 classes, and it has not been a great year. One of my son's classes has a student teacher, and one has a brand new teacher from a different district, and the difference between the 2 classes is incredible. It is, I walk into one class and I see joy and happiness and helpfulness and the way a 2nd grade class should be, and then I go into the other class and I could cry right now because it is bad. It is not good. There are kids in there who are not getting supported. I have a gifted student in that class who definitely doesn't get supported, which is hard to say because he's fine. He's doing fine. He's doing all the things he needs to do. He's checking all the boxes. He's doing great. But every child deserves to be challenged. Every child deserves to fail. Every child deserves to be taught from where they're at, and they are not getting taught from where they're at. Sorry, I didn't think I was going to get emotional. I met with our principal before school started without even knowing the class sizes because of my concerns about meeting every child where they're at, and I was told that in 2nd grade they start to do walk to math, so they do some differentiating learning, and I was excited about that. 2 weeks later, when we got the class list, the class sizes, we were told they're not doing that anymore because the class sizes are too big and it's too distracting and it takes too long during the day. There's been virtually no differentiation based on ability. I work from home and I volunteer at the school at least once a week because if I wasn't there, other parents weren't there, I don't even know how they function. I go in to help with research. Some kids can't copy a word from a screen onto a page. Other kids are writing 5 pages and they're on their own. And then, I don't even know how to help those students. And one teacher cannot help 30 kids at all those different ability levels, and they shouldn't have to. There aren't even enough Chromebooks in the classroom for them to type out their research words. This is unacceptable, and the teachers are stressed out, burnt out, and we have to do better.
Chris Beckman. And we're going to try to finish all the speakers before. So I think we'll just go over another 20 minutes, if that's okay with everyone.
Okay. Hello, my name is Chris Beckman, and I am a paraeducator at Mapleton Early Childhood Center and also the co-president of Boulder Valley Paraeducators Association. And I'm here to speak to you about the TAG tutors, or gifted and talented advisors. And I think that they're some of BVSD's most valued and unappreciated employees. Boulder Valley Paraeducators Association very strongly feels that they should be included in Unit E, and we're grateful to Deb and the GTAs that have signed the petition that you've been given related to the number of them that would like to be able to enter Unit E. Like gifted and talented advisors, paraeducators work with students every day to help them reach their goals, whether it's his classroom, paras working with severe needs kids in ILCs, or whether it's keeping kids healthy and safe in our health rooms, or as one of many different types of special skills aids. Our members work hourly, unlike teachers, but have direct student contact, and that's why we believe that the GTAs really ought to be in Unit E and belong in Unit E. And we just implore you to follow board policy HG and either place them in Unit E or to hold an election for doing so, as your board policy mandates. And I thank you for your time in that sense. We also believe that there's a substantial first step in addressing some of the turnover that goes into the churn with our GT programs, and combined with additional salary steps provided by Unity, that may also help us to address some of our CDE compliance, because so many of these people have so little experience in terms of what they're doing.
Tangi Lancaster.
Hi, I'm Tangi Lancaster with a G, no J. Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Tangi Lancaster, and I am on the Education Committee of the NAACP here in Boulder, and I'm also an employee of El Paso who supports the reasons of why I'm speaking tonight. On Friday, January 11th, 2019, my then third grader sang Old Dan Tucker on the car ride home from school, much to the dismay of my husband, who knew the song as a minstrel. When asked where he learned it, our son told him it was for his third grade music performance. I was informed of this later on in the day, along with that the class would be performing a dance to Cotton Eye Joe, another minstrel song. I wrote to our son's teacher stating that he would not be singing or performing to these songs, and that we hoped that she would consider changing to other songs that were not insensitive and were more inclusive and culturally appropriate for all students. The teacher's response was dismissive to us and extremely offensive, especially to my husband, who did respond back, but we never heard back from her. Both songs were pulled from the program, though, only to be replaced with a song that oppresses Indigenous people. I spoke to Dr. Sam Messier about this on Thursday, February 14th, 2019. I shared with her my husband's and my concerns about having students sing and perform to minstrel songs. I included that even at our oldest BVSD middle school, he was also taught to dance to Cotton Eye Joe. I left our meeting thinking that this would be the end to such things in our school district. I also wound up speaking with Dr. Anderson about these situations as well. And then I was informed of the music performance at another BVSD elementary school 2 weeks ago, in which the children happily sang Jimmy Crack Corn. I was flabbergasted. Nothing clearly has changed in over a year since I first brought this situation up. And then there's the issues with the singing of other racist songs, such as Five Little Monkeys Jumping on a Bed, Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Moe, in preschool and kindergarten. Original words matter. If the original words in a song are the N-word, our children have no place singing that song. Just because the words have been whitewashed does not make it okay. This is not simply about one incident at one elementary school a couple of weeks ago. This is about the institutionalized and systemic racism that runs rampant throughout the school district against our students and families of color. It is in all schools, whether blatant or covert, aggressive, or through so many microaggressions on a daily basis. The curriculum standards center whiteness, and BVSD can either continue to be complicit in perpetuating racism through white folk songs, because that's what we keep hearing, these are folk songs, or this district can be bold and be an accomplice in bringing an end to racism. Vanessa Quintana, a phenomenal leader that I have the privilege of knowing, has said that everyone is attached to whiteness, and we all have to challenge ourselves to be honest about such attachments and courageous to detach from whiteness. Be courageous. Stop the singing of and performing to all racist songs, not just the minstrels. We know better, so we do better, and I expect you all to do better. Thank you.
Stephen Lancaster.
Hello, I'm Stephen Lancaster, concerned parent within the village. First of all, The minstrel show, or minstrelsy, was an American form of entertainment developed in early 19th century. Each show consisted of comic skits, variety acts, dancing, and music performances that mocked people, specifically of African descent. Hold on. Let me move. Dry.
I got this at school.
Oh, thank you. Oh, that's horrible. Cotton Eye Joe's Euro dance drink? Oh, that's terrible. I'm guessing this has like a little hint of oppressiveness to it. And even if you were to get past that portion, there's been elements of sexually transmitted diseases associated with this song. Surely things I don't want my third grader to be listening to. Okay? Yeah, you got anything else? That is horrible. Let's try that one. Oh, that's really bad too. Old Dan Tucker's Coca-Cola? Yeah, no, that's horrible too. That really tastes racist. That's awful. I think the point here is that we need to be more aware and stop choosing repackaged racism. And that's exactly what's going on. A lot of these songs show up in sporting events now, and just because we change a few words, we think, oh, look, it's safe and it's fun, and we put in Just Dance, and it's all good. We got to start doing a better job of finding out where these songs actually come from. And then the other thing, I love what you had to say as far as some of the things about the system, but one of the other things I want to see is when a teacher actually does go through this and they want to apologize, stop referring to events as being unfortunate. They're tragic. Thank you.
Pam Moore?
Hello. Hi, can you hear me? I'm Pam Moore. I'm the mother of 2 Creekside students. I didn't know that people were going to be addressing class sizes. It's a major issue at Creekside in the 2nd grade, but I'm actually here about the minstrel songs. I got an email from BVSD yesterday, as I'm sure you all did, and it said, I'm quoting, "Please know that BVSD will not tolerate any hateful or racist words or actions." I definitely think, as others have already spoken to, I don't need to repeat, I think we know that minstrel songs have racist histories. And I think there will be people who will say, but the words aren't the N-word, it's different, it's okay, it's just a song. Well, for one thing, we know the origins. You know, maybe we didn't know them when we didn't have the internet when I was a kid, but we know now. And when you know better, you do better. When we were kids, we thought, oh, be colorblind, right? No, we know now that that's denying who people are and what their history is. And when kids are made to sing these songs, it's, you know, it may not be traumatic now to a 2nd, 3rd, 4th grader, but then they grow up and they go, oh my God, I was singing these songs and my teacher told me to, and everybody thought that this was okay? Like, what does that mean? That is not okay. I mean, the same way that we're not gonna go around flying a Confederate flag. You know, you're gonna look at a swastika and go, oh, that's a pretty symbol, and that was so long ago, we don't care about that. We would never do that. And I think it's the same thing. I think BVSD, I mean, we pride ourselves on our social emotional learning curriculum. We're known for a city that's supposed to be progressive. I think that we can do better and we can show that that's what we really are about if not only, as you said, we take these out of the curriculum. I mean, for discussion, for middle schoolers, high schoolers, fine. But to be made to sing these songs and then to come to a teacher who apparently has no sensitivity around it, that is not okay. Thank you.
Rupali Hoffman?
Good evening. Thank you for those of you who visited Monarch High School today. I hope you were warmly greeted as you were there. I have been a tag tutor for 13 years, started at El Dorado Elementary and then moved to El Dorado Middle School, and now I'm at the high school, at Monarch High School. And I've now seen kids who I've supported, gifted students when they were in 3rd grade, and now I get to go to their high school graduations, which has been an honor. I really feel like it's been a labor of love for these 13 years. I've grown, the job has grown, but unfortunately, our compensation package has not grown at all. And it's becoming more and more difficult for me to support myself here in Boulder with the package that we have. Tag tutors are Many of my colleagues have master's degrees. We are educated and we give fully to ourselves to these gifted students. And we want to continue to do this, and I feel like if we move into this Unit E BVPA, we'll be able to retain a lot more of these gifted and talented educators. Our goal is to primarily support not only gifted students, but their families. We do parent groups to support the families of these gifted students. We work with teachers to help teachers learn how to differentiate and to support them in the classroom. We're doing a lot more than our jobs actually communicate, and so I really feel like it's been a justice issue for me right now, and I encourage you to look at moving the GTAs into the Unit E BVPA. Thank you so much.
Shelley Nyack.
Hello, my name is Shelley Nyack. Thank you for the opportunity to share our comments tonight. I'm also here to comment on class size. My daughter is also in second grade at Louisville Elementary. I volunteer in her classroom every Monday for an hour and 40 minutes for reading and writing. There are currently 28 children in my daughter's classroom, down from 30 at the beginning of the year. I see that the large classes this year are placing a great deal of stress on our teachers. With so many children in a class, there is a higher level of energy and distraction in the classroom. Our second grade teachers have to spend more of their time redirecting children and managing behavior, and they have less time and energy to focus on teaching the curriculum. Teachers also have less time to spend with each individual child, which makes it harder for them to build high-quality relationships with individual kids. The first few years of elementary school are the foundation of these kids' future education. And I worry that if teachers don't have the time and resources to fully address these kids' needs at this age, that these kids will struggle more in the future. I also have a 4-year-old who will be starting kindergarten at Louisville Elementary in the fall. We also moved here in large part because of BVSD, and I now feel concerned about his education going forward. Will he also be placed in overcrowded classes with overextended teachers? Many of our teachers at LES have been at the school for well over a decade, and this close-knit teaching staff is the backbone of our school. Will these experienced, dedicated teachers still be at the school when my son reaches the higher grades, or will they have burned out and moved on to better opportunities? We have enrolled him at the school for the fall, and we will continue to support our school, but I hope that the school board will prioritize smaller class sizes. Thank you.
Andrew O'Connor.
Good evening. My name is Andrew O'Connor. I'm here to tell you that BVSD has failed my daughter, has failed the students, and they refuse to address bullying. On March 5th, 2020, my 11-year-old daughter was attacked in the hallway of Platt Choice by a straight 11-year-old boy. Did he attack my daughter because he was transgender? She was transgender? The boy told her that he was going to break her neck, and when she ran away, he caught up to her and put his hands on her throat and tried to strangle her in the hallway of Platt Choice. My daughter reported the assault along with her friend to her teacher, who was a witness to the physical assault. Platt Choice was grossly negligent, and the fact that they would have such poor supervision and allow my daughter to be physically assaulted is outrageous and unacceptable. It is clear that Platt Choice failed my daughter, as did BVSD, failed to prevent the physical assault, and failed to protect her. I'm very concerned about my daughter's safety at Platt Choice, as a transgender student in general, and especially relative to the straight boy who was not prevented from physically assaulting her in the school. My understanding is that the boy was suspended for 3 days. What happens when he comes back tomorrow from the suspension? Will he attack her again? I have been told by the principal that the boy is going to be placed in class with my daughter tomorrow. I cannot have this. I'm telling you, I've sued you before, and I'm going to sue you again. If you put my daughter back in school with that boy that attacked her and tried to strangle her, I'm going to sue your ass in federal court. You better do the right thing.
Kathy Cole.
Hi, my name is Kathy Cole. I am here to talk about class size as well. I didn't really plan to speak, but I feel this is very important. My child has been at LES since kindergarten. It's been an amazing experience. We've had small class sizes up until this year. He got lucky. Not every first grade class was as small as ours. And we had an amazing teacher who stayed with him, but this year has been terrible. He is in a class like with some of the other students. I think it's down to 27, maybe 28. He was just diagnosed with ADD. I know a lot of children have it. I know it's misdiagnosed. He is not misdiagnosed. He is definitely falling. Everybody thinks their child's the smartest. I don't think he is. I think he has a lot of potential, and he's not reaching it because he kind of goes under the radar until he's a problem, because he is a problem, because he can't focus, because he's not getting what he needs from his teacher. He also says things to me every now and then. He adores his teacher, but he hates going to school. On a side note, there is a little bit of a bullying thing going on with him too, but I won't get into that. He says to me, he's a very, very outgoing child, very happy, very just like you just want to squeeze him and hang out with him. But he looks at me half the time and says, I just don't want to go to school. It's too overwhelming. There's too many people. And I feel stupid because if I ask a question, I won't get the help I need from my teacher because there's too many kids to address. And that's absolutely 1,000,000 times unacceptable from any educator to make a child feel that way. And I don't think it's the teacher's fault. I'm not placing blame on him, but to echo some of the other ladies who have spoken, the administration needs to step up. I think you guys need to step up and realize that a smaller class is better for everyone involved in the entire school. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe that concludes. We do have one more? Okay. Jessica Bronson.
I was actually not planning to speak and give my time, so I'm going to use my time just really quick to say thank you to all the students and all the kids that came out today. I know it's scary for me to be up here and half the room isn't here anymore, and so I just want to say well done to the teachers, the parents that encouraged their kids to come, and the bravery that it took to be up here and to make a difference for the other kids and for my 2-year-old son who will someday be in the same spot as you guys are. So thank you.
So I think that does conclude public participation, and so now we'll move to board communication. And this is sometimes where issues are addressed, so you may want to stick around. Who would like to start? Kitty?
First of all, I want to thank everyone who came to speak to us. We had a number of issues obviously dealt with, and they were all heartfelt issues that are causing great concern. And, you know, I hear you. In terms of the minstrel songs, I agree they have no place in our schools. I was raised with these songs. I had no idea the history of them. I just learned them from my Southern grandmother, who sang them all the time. To the students who came and spoke to us about family separation, I'm sorry they're not here anymore. That was heartrending. Thank you so much, students, for doing that. I appreciate it so much. And class sizes, you know, I'm curious, how many rounds are there in second grade at LES? Three.
So what you might want to do is do an information item on that?
Yeah, I will.
Okay.
I was just curious when they talked about it. So thank you for coming to speak to us. And did I leave anything out? The gifted, right. The gifted and talented. Thank you so much also for coming to speak to us.
Okay, who would like to go next? There. Lisa?
Yeah, so first for the tag and class size folks, I'm not going to respond in detail tonight, but I wanted to say that I heard you and I'll follow up with that. The students are gone. The teachers are still here. They were fantastic. That was so great. And this is the pamphlet that they made, is that right? Yeah, those are some great materials. What these kids are dealing with is unimaginable. And I think the more we can do to support them, the better. I was curious, I know I've sat through a few trainings with the ACLU on ICE, and I know there are other groups that do it as well. Is this something we've talked about doing in any of these schools that have these problems?
We can provide you all an update on the things that we're doing. I know that we have some of the Know Your Rights training that's occurring, but to the extent where that's happening, we can share that with you all.
Okay, thanks. Jude Landsman, I think she left. She said there is no excuse. I just wanted to say that she's right, and I'm sorry. And I wanted to ask Rob, we were talking about the early childhood education, the 5 little monkeys, and the eeny meeny. I know you addressed the other bit, but could you speak a little to that?
Yep, our team is going to be getting together, and we'll be presenting to you all with the plan on how we're going to move forward on this. And so more to come on that.
Well, thanks to all of you for coming out tonight. It was a long night of comment, but I think a much needed and much appreciated night. And I'm thankful to all of you who took the time to email, to come and to talk, and to give your point of view. I know it's not always easy and sometimes intimidating, and I appreciate you all taking the time.
Okay. Who else wants to go? Richard?
Thank you. Thank you for all the folks that came out and speak tonight, especially to the students that talked about family separation. That saddened me a lot, only because I do work a lot with the immigrant families. I know what they're going through. I know what some of these students are going through. And I really, really hope that we all heard very loud and clear what they were suggesting to us and recommending for us to do. I did attend the Casey Avid presentation that they made last week, and I really need to give a shout out to the Avid teacher, Catherine, and they had a full house there, only because they also had some really wonderful entertainment. El Grupo Danza, or El Grupo Baile, they called it. And they were dancing, and it was a wonderful community event that went on there, and I could see in the audience many brown faces and white faces enjoying that presentation. But then the students got up and they started talking about what they would like to see at Casey Middle School, and that was to really, really focus on bringing in a counselor that was bilingual and bicultural, that would really understand the issues of family separation and undocumented students, etc. And I hope we hear that loud and clear, and I hope that we do something about that. I don't know if there's any vacancies coming up at Casey, but if it does, I think that I hope to see that we fill that position with an individual like that. The minstrel comments, those were also really hurtful in terms of what I saw in a video at one of the elementary schools. And I'm glad to hear your comments regarding that, Rob. And I also saw the resolution that the NAACP came up with. And I'm hoping that with that resolution and your comments, Rob, that somehow we can marry those two together and really come up with some good, solid policy or action items in terms of what we intend to do with not allowing that kind of music in our elementary schools. But I also understand that some of those particular, the words in those particular songs could be educational too, if we use it educationally, so that we don't censor, as you were suggesting, so that we can make sure that our kids learn that some of these particular songs are racist. So I really appreciate all of you for coming down and sharing your hurtful, how you hurt in terms of hearing those particular songs, and also the students that were here. Wow, I don't know how much I can say about those two Avid programs at Casey and also at Angevine. They're just wonderful programs. I mean, if this is what they're producing, those Avid teachers, wow. I can see now that we'll get great graduates out of this particular AVID program. And for the classroom size, yeah, we need to do something about that. We heard you loud and clear on that too, so I did anyway. Thank you very much.
Donna?
As everyone was speaking tonight, in my own mind, I thought about my own 30 years of teaching. And not only did I start the gifted program in Deer Valley School District, but I also taught many undocumented students who I helped get jobs, actually internships. They couldn't get paid jobs for various reasons, but my heart goes out to so many people that spoke tonight. In fact, a couple times I had tears in my eyes. But I saw an umbrella, a theme in everything, and it was how can we do better in many areas? How can we better serve our students? And what I appreciated is that not only did you come up here, many of you and the students, with, and maybe I don't mean to minimize it by saying complaints, but you came with the problems, I would say, but you came with answers and gave us information, but also suggestions on how we can improve it, whether it be undocumented workers or students, and the separation of families, the inappropriate curriculum being taught in our schools, class size, which someone referred to the November 17th meeting that my husband spent about 40 minutes at that meeting talking about class size and what we need to do and how we need to focus on that. And here we are 2 years later. Let's change this. If we are going to take care of that opportunity achievement gap, class size is a major way to do it. So I hear you on that. And then safety. Safety for our students being bullied in any way is totally unacceptable. And I wish that each of us up here could just change everything brought to us tonight. It's very disturbing to know I sit here and think something's got to change, and we've got to work together as a team here to make that happen so that we don't hear these kind of problems again in this room. Thanks.
Okay. Kathy? She's good. Kitty went.
So I don't have much to add for the students. They were amazing and awesome. They did mention a couple things, Rob, that I'm wondering if the board could see, and then maybe we'd make more widely available. There was a video, a family separation video that they talked about, and then there was also a survey and the results of the survey. I think it'd be really interesting to see what the results of that survey were. But their professionalism and their presentation and all of that was just amazing. And I completely agree with you, Richard. We're in good hands if those are the students that we're going to be handing our education and our system to. So thank you to the teachers and to the program for bringing them and for helping them bring, and to Donna's point, I really appreciate them bringing solutions and not just talking about an issue, but bringing actual solutions. So look forward to working together on trying to figure out how we help them. Because I can't tell you, I cannot even imagine what that would be like. I just simply cannot imagine. So I appreciate them bringing that forward and helping us to understand what their lives might be like. On the GT proposal, I know several of the individuals who signed this, and I'm assuming, I know they put their heart and soul into our students, our GT students, and I'm assuming that Mike and you are trying to figure it out. Again, like Donna said, I really appreciate them bringing a solution forward instead of just identifying a problem. So I'll look forward to hearing as to whether that solution makes sense. I can't tell you that I have the ins and outs of knowing any of that, but I appreciate you bringing it forward and look forward to hearing whether that makes sense or if something else makes more sense. So thank you for putting together the PowerPoint and bringing all that information to us. On a related issue to the family separation, another issue that's kind of confronting our our undocumented community and our immigrant community is the change to the public charge rule that the government is putting in place. And as a resource, I would tell you that the Boulder Community Foundation has an amazing amazing source of information for families who want to know a little about it. They have a link to the governor's letter that explains what it's doing. They have helpful links to things, and so maybe we could even try to link to that, because I think this is a recent change and could definitely impact some of our families, and I think it's really important that we bring that forward so that people understand what's going on around the public charge, because it impacts their ability to apply for governmental benefits and different groups. It's very convoluted and very intense, kind of what's going on with those families, so maybe we could do that. A couple on class size, I feel really torn. Those of you who don't know me, I dive into school finance and have for many years. We're still operating at the state level with a $500 million negative factor. We have asked our community, and they have stepped up for almost everything we can ask for from our community. It's really hard to balance all those needs. I really appreciate you bringing that forward, because we need to hear the stories about the impact. But I also encourage you to be engaged as we try to solve the funding crisis, because it hits Boulder hard as well as it hits other communities. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. I do think pay attention to upcoming election. There may be some solutions out there that will help a little bit, because it's a statewide issue, not just a local issue. So thank you for bringing that forward, and I really appreciate hearing your stories and understanding how the impact is hitting, especially certain grade levels at Louisville Elementary. A couple quick things. Attended the Parity Parent Night and heard from Latino families, and I really appreciated them stepping forward and sharing their concerns and issues with us, and then was able to swing by the Parity graduation, which is such a nice event. So I just want to give a shout out to Ari and to Dennis for the great work that they do with our Parity parents. They work really hard. And I'm not going to talk about all this, but thanks to Laura and all the principals who have helped us with our CTE tours. We had a CBOC tour, so there is continued, I think, some continued good work going on in the district. We have a long way to go, as Donna said, to improve a lot of our practices. But I also want to give a shout out to people who are working really hard to help us get there. So thank you.
Thanks. I also attended Parity with Kathy and Stacy, and one of the unique things about Parity is that it's conducted all in Spanish. It's a challenge. We have to remember our college level Spanish or whatever we took, but it was a great opportunity to hear directly from the Latino community about some changes. And one of the interesting things was the accessibility of the students' rights and anti-discrimination policies that are listed in the student handbook. And I also am thankful for the bond tour that I was able to participate a little bit on. And I also just wanted to mention that Laura found some old census data from the Boulder Valley School District, and you saw in the Daily Camera that was just included in the Carnegie Library, which is interesting. For all of our speakers, thank you so much for coming. I will be asking more questions about the gifted and talented proposal. Regarding class size, I echo a lot of what Kathy says. It is really tricky. I do sometimes wonder about how we have 3 different levels of numbers, why it's K1, 2, 3, and 4, 5. I do feel like we always hear from second grade parents in the 7 years that I've been here. And if you're not aware, I partly got involved in my school because of class size. It was 10 years ago. So I started with 26, 29, and then up to 32. So that is a concern that I share, and I worry particularly about why we have 3 tiers instead of 2 tiers. And it's a big deal. You mentioned the union contract. That is, the class size is set through union negotiations, which we'll embark upon a year from today. And it is something that we do with the teachers. So this is an agreement with the teachers, and it's important to know that that's how it happens. On the minstrel songs, I just want to thank you for all coming and educating me on the impact of these songs in our community. Obviously, we're not doing it anymore. However, I won't be supporting the resolution. What I'd support instead is getting the language from the resolution into permanent policy. The policy is what we use to coach our administrators and the people who do curriculum. And it's resolutions are really tricky because they just stand out to the side and there's nowhere to find them. Now, if we want to go to a resolution-based board, we need to change our whole management. If you look at LA Unified, they have a separate resolutions page, and I think you're supposed to go there, cross-check what you're doing, and see if it applies to what you did. And I don't think that's a best practice on how to do governance in a district. So I'm going to propose that we try to get the language from here into the policy on a more permanent basis for the district. I don't think this problem is going away. The need to be equitable, inclusive, and to make sure that we're being sensitive to all of our populations and contextually appropriate when we can. And to the students from AVID, I thought that that was a wonderful presentation. I echo Richard's words. If this is where we're heading, we're in good shape, and it seemed really great. One thing that's really interesting, going back to resolutions, is in August of this year, we passed a resolution in support of immigrant and vulnerable families as a reaction to some of the state or the federal level policies that were enacted. In fact, and it echoes many of what the students are asking for. I don't think we've revisited, looked at, or even noticed that resolution since the day we passed it. So it was in the resolution, it was indicated that would be hung physically in each school. I don't know if it's still there. I can't check, and it's part of the reason why I'm not sure about the resolution piece sometimes. And I think that we might even consider as a board some kind of discussion about when do we do a resolution? Is it to replace policy? Is it to augment policy? Or really is it just for these small, unique periods of time when we're reacting to something that's a bigger issue? So I think that's a worthwhile discussion for the board. And then the last thing I wanted to just mention is that the environment right now for teachers is probably really challenging. They still have the same expectations around trying to be socially, emotionally supportive, reaching their academic goals, and at the same time, they're dealing with 25 to 30 anxious kids who are trying to figure out what is a pandemic, and their parents might be nervous as well, and the teachers themselves are trying to care for their own families and their children. So, and also our staff are working so hard to address this issue. I just want to know you to know that I'm thinking a lot about the stress on our teachers right now and hope that they're practicing self-care so that we all don't burn out in what's a very stressful and uncertain time. So with that, I think we're going to take a break for 5 minutes. All right, let's continue our meeting, and we're going into our information items. Our first item is 6.1, which is an update from CBOC.
President Marquez, Superintendent Anderson, members of the school board, my name is Scott Stevens, Executive Director of the Bond Program, and it's my pleasure tonight to present our CBOC. It's okay. It's okay. We're okay. My pleasure to present our quarterly update to the board from CBOC. So to date in the bond program, we are approximately 78% complete, and which comprises of 47 projects of 63 in the master plan. We have spent $531 million as of February 12th of this year. I wanted to talk just briefly about 2019. 2019 was a really big year for what we accomplished, $115 million in improvements, 15 projects, and that we ran some numbers, approximately affected 6,000 students in the district, just 2019 alone. Projects that are in progress or that are coming up, you can see on the left, these projects will be going into construction this year. Several of these projects will be starting over spring break and working through the summer. The projects in the middle and design bidding, they're actually, they just have not been formalized, approved by the board yet. We'll be bringing some of these to you in the April board meeting for approval. And then future projects, the Justice High, New Vista, the Rec Fieldhouse, and air conditioning projects are what we have remaining in the bond program. So tonight, one of the things we wanted to do, we always like it during the CBOC updates, at least since I've been here, to kind of highlight a project that we've got going on this year. And tonight we want to talk about the Halcyon School, which will begin construction this year. This will go through this year and through next summer and complete in August of 2021. We are going to demolish the old building and construct a new building in the same space, approximately 15,000 square feet. The area will be separated for elementary and secondary students. We'll have significantly improved spaces, especially our cafeteria multi-use spaces. One of the things that I think Halcyon struggles with is having a good gathering space for all of its community, students and alike. And then some much needed small group and office areas, counseling type spaces as well. So tonight we've invited Matt Dudek and Tiffany, thank you, sorry, to speak about the Halcyon School and this project and what it means to them. Tiffany is a teacher at the school, and Matt is the director and administrator of the program. So, Matt.
Okay. Well, I was going to close. So this feels like one of those Oscars speeches where we're like, hey, how do we work this all out? Again, hi, Matt Dudek, Director of Special Education for Special Programs. I'm fortunate to be the administrator at the Halcyon School. I simply want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to the board. I want to say thank you to CBOC. I want to say thank you to BVSD, our community as a whole. The commitment that our community, this building means so much to our students and our parents, and says that everyone in this district, everyone in this community matters. Everyone matters. And I know I had the opportunity to sit through the board meeting tonight, and you guys got a lot of feedback, feeling like, how do you support everyone? This sends that message. All of our students, all of our families, regardless of the needs, regardless of the behaviors, regardless of the challenges that have led to the placement at Halcyon School, you matter. We value you, and we're going to build you this brand new building. So thank you so very much.
Hi, I'm Tiffany. I'm a teacher at Halcyon, and again, I will second what Matt says. Thank you for your time and providing our students with this building. What I am most excited about as a teacher is an updated classroom. Our building is from it's old. We don't have air conditioning, which I'm okay with, but it'd be nice for our students to feel that they matter in the district with updated building and state-of-the-art facilities for them, and a designated playground for our elementary kids. So again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt and Tiffany. And on the screen, what you see are some renderings of the proposed facility. The building on the photo on the left, the building at the top there, is actually part of the existing building that we are going to demolish the inside, keep the structure, and redo it to tie in to the new building. So this gives you a nice view of what we anticipate seeing there. Also wanted to give you an update on the Ed Center campus projects. We have the food services will be moving into their new offices on April 7th. Chef Ann is very excited and cannot wait for this. I just want to convey that excitement. On May 22nd, we'll be moving employees out of the Ed Center, out of this building, the 1972 edition, we call it, building. And then our May board meeting will be off-site, obviously, as this building will be offline. August, we'll plan to return to the building on August 17th for staff to move back in. And then our kitchen will be producing meals by August 20th, first day of school. And we're excited about that. In October is when we anticipate the addition to the Ed Center, which you see to the east, the big steel frame building, if you saw it driving in tonight. If you didn't see it, take a walk out front and take a peek at it. It's kind of cool to see that skeleton of a steel structure out there right now. We geek out on this stuff, so we're really excited about that. There's some photos of it here, and you can see on the left the future Ed Center. Upper right is the kitchen, central kitchen area, and this photo on the bottom right is actually freezer racks that attach to the side of the kitchen. If you look closely on that top right photo, you can see them kind of orange and blue there attached to the building. So these are kind of like equivalent to like Home Depot shelves, like you see at Home Depot or Lowe's, where they put these racks of food in there and store in these freezer racks. It's pretty exciting. At this time, I'd like to introduce John Stanton, our chair of the CBOC committee, and he'll give an update.
Evening. Since we were out here last, or I was here last, we met once in February. We actually had it at Emerald Elementary School. We met with Samara Williams, got a nice tour of a very, very nice elementary school, an amazing, I don't know, central space. To call it a library is really not a library. It was just a big, giant, gorgeous space that was amazing. And then we also heard about the whole story of the fireplace and having open flames in an elementary school. Actually, they're not open, but it's quite interesting to walk in to see a fireplace into a school is very welcoming. And it also, I always echo when you hear me all the time when I'm up here, I recommend everybody get out to these schools. And I'll talk about the tour in a minute, because it's an amazing thing. It's one thing to sit on these committees and ask a bunch of financial questions and learn a hell of a lot about asbestos and roofing and HVAC systems, but it's a whole different experience to walk out into the schools and actually see what happened after, so before and after. And so I would suggest that all board members and also all the CBOC members, anybody in this group, really needs to go out there and see it. There's a whole different feel and approach to, we see a lot of numbers, we go over a lot, and a lot of us are very big on the numbers, but there's a whole thing difference to see how $100,000 was spent in an innovation center that changed kids' lives. So that's why we try, and my big push is always we're going to be in a different place every meeting so that we can see some of this going on. At each meeting, we do go over the numbers, a lot of numbers, and as of the last meeting, we brought $821,000, or actually the staff brought $821,000 back into the program from savings over the summer. So that's a big accomplishment to bring back almost $900,000 that we can now use on other projects. And as Scott said, expenditures to date, $531 million. That's a lot of money. We also had to do one big item in February is we actually supported the transfer of $600,000 into Mesa, and that was to cost overruns primarily with asbestos issues, correct? So we had to put some more money back into that. So that's why having that $900,000 come back is very important, because we have these kind of projects in these older schools. The outstanding contracted commitments at this time are $47 million, and that we get basically a remaining $99 million in our forecast. We had the bus tour last Friday, and I appreciate the members that all went. I actually had been to all those schools, but it was a totally different experience for me, because while we were going to these schools, and we usually get the tour by an assistant principal or a principal, we'd never see the spaces with kids in them. And we hear about all these innovation spaces, we hear about all of these interesting furniture, especially these little tiny ones at the elementary schools that are on the floor, and I'm like, I can't imagine. And then when you're walking, we did the tour during school hours. And what I liked as well is the principal at Angevine made us stand right in the middle of the school during a passing. It's because he wanted us to show them the diversity of the school. But what's amazing to me is we had seen all these alcoves and all these spaces and all this money that we've spent on these things, and I'd never seen a student sit in any of these until we went to these schools and we saw them filled with students, with writing on the wall, with presentations up. And one of the more amazing ones was standing in Centauros in their renovated cafeteria, and the bell rang, and we all crammed up against the lockers as waves of teenagers came flowing through, and waves came in and waves went out, and it was amazing to watch that space and see how the space was used, and then see how people were flowing in and out and using all these new innovative spaces. So once again, I express my invitation to you, come out to the next CBOC meeting, but get to those schools and see them in use. This money is going to really interesting and amazing things. So our next meeting is in May. Now, where we're going to be, we're not sure. The leading candidate right now is New Vista, because we have one big decision for all of us at the committee and the board is what to do and what we finally do in New Vista. So the big push right now is we want to go out to that site, just like we went out to University Hill, to see it kind of beforehand. So any questions for CBOC?
Questions, Kathy?
Not a question, just thank you for all your attention and time. I know it takes a lot of time for you to herd all of the CBOC members and to go through all the numbers, and you do it all as a volunteer, so thank you. And I echo that it was really cool to, like you said, have Mike Medina make us stand there and watch all the kids coming out and to see the space actually being used, because you can't really visualize it until you actually see it. So thank you, John, for everything you're doing. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Other questions? Kitty?
Yeah, I don't really have a question either. I just want to echo Kathy's thanks. I'm sorry I was not able to make the tour. I was not feeling very well. And one thing I'm so impressed with is every single time we hear about what's going on with the bond, we hear about you saving money. So kudos to Rob, to everybody for doing that. That's really good to hear.
Donna?
I can't wait to see Halcyon, because having worked in there, and I feel like you always have to duck every time you go in, and it just seems dark. And I appreciate, Matt, that you said, you know, we honor all students, and so I'm anxious to go on that tour.
We look forward to having you.
Anything else? All right. Is that it?
Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much for all that you're doing. We really appreciate it. Okay. Our next information item is 6.2 Enterprise Resource Planning ERP System Update.
All right, good evening. So this will be a brief update, review, part history lesson, journey of how we got to where we are regarding our ERP system. So I believe the question came up at a work session the other day of, so what is an ERP system? So the Enterprise Resource Planning System is what is referenced. So it's the software. It's the entire nuts and bolts of managing the day-to-day business activities of the district, accounting, payroll, procurement, HR, compliance, supply chain operations. The ERP, it's really a suite of programs, modules, and it has, you know, budget and planning, predictive reporting, on the financial side of things. So it's really the end-to-end system for the district operations. The goal with any comprehensive ERP system, efficiency, reducing data duplication, data integrity, and what we refer to as a single source of truth, so that there aren't multiple systems out there as sort of replicating different truths of financial information in particular. And while these are often operate in the background, they really are indispensable to managing such a large system that we have. So there are lots of different sized systems as well. The larger and more complex an organization is, they need larger systems to operate. So our ERP journey over the years, so this goes all the way back to 1992. So in 1994, when I started here, we had this system. It was called SIMS. It was a green screen terminal-based system, so very old school. And that kind of system was updated once a year, so there weren't constant patches, things like that. In about 2002-ish, there was a merger, and well, it wasn't really a merger, it was more of a partnership and an attempt to take that old system and bring it into a more modern standpoint with what the Infor our current system predecessor was. Went very poorly as a partnership, and in the demerger, we wound up with the full system, the full predecessor of Infor. So that was a benefit to us because we got a much larger system and more robust system than we would have otherwise. However, during the implementation of that in that 2003-4 range, we really customized it to replicate what our prior system did. So it really mirrored that system. What that turned into was a system that was very difficult to upgrade. Patches, the company would send out a patch, and when you try to apply a patch to a customized system, they often don't work. And so it became kind of out of date pretty quickly. In 2013, we did what we call a vanilla implementation of that same system. And what that means is you basically put in the system without the customizations. Now, they'd made many improvements to that system in that almost decade between when we first implemented it. So it was able to be implemented in that more vanilla format. So we again continued to use and patch and upgrade the system, which we could do since it wasn't customized. And then in about 2016, we started looking at sort of what options were out there as a replacement system or an upgrade. The predecessor, the system, it was called Lawson, was acquired by Infor. And so we decided to sort of look at the lay of the land when it came to ERP systems and see what our options were. And then in about 2018, we decided to do a full RFP, request for proposals for a new ERP system. So that ran for about a year. We did run an RFP to select a firm to help us run through the process of the RFP for the ERP. Hope you're following along with this. The process, so we selected this company called Plant Moran. They're one of the nation's largest certified public accounting and business advisory firms. So this is an arm of their business. They do this on a regular basis with companies, public sector, government entities to help guide the process of an ERP selection process because it is very large and complicated. So the folks from their team met with us, met with lots of folks with BVSD, gathered requirements, like what do we need the system to do, what do we need it to do now, what do we need it to do in the future. They collected the responses from the firms, went through all the requirements that we had put forth in the RFP, made sure that the firms were responsive to those requirements. One of the reasons for selecting an outside firm to do this rather than our procurement team, who usually runs RFPs, is to make sure that our team inside could fully engage with the process and help select the system that they would end up using down the road and not have to set themselves back from that. So that was an important piece of it. That, as well as having a team that does this on a regular basis. So the district evaluated the responses that were provided to us by Plant Moran. We hosted 3 demos with 3 different firms, Tyler Technologies, Infor, and Oracle. We then narrowed that field down to Infor and Oracle for some further demos and interactions with their teams as far as finding the right fit. So Infor was selected as the most responsive for BVSD's needs. It took about 6 months to negotiate the contract. These are really complex contracts. Infor, back up a little bit, was selected as both the solution and the implementer. So for example, Oracle doesn't actually implement their own software. They have implementers that work with them. So in the RFP process, we got 3 firms proposing Oracle implementations and we got 2 for Infor. So again, in all this process, we were selecting both the solution and the implementer. So we did land on Infor and their in-house arm of implementers to put the solution in. So in October, we put the project on pause. Just a lot of change and efforts going on in the district, and this is a big undertaking. So we put it on hold for a little bit. In January, we sort of got back on track and kicked it off again to put back in motion getting the contract finalized, which we're still in the process of doing. And then we plan on bringing that to the board in the end of April for approval. For the implementation, so historically, a big ERP implementation would tend to be 18 to 24 months as kind of a benchmark. This new system, and I would say that this is becoming more standard, to implement on a shorter timeline because it's what's referred to as a multi-tenant cloud solution. So everybody that uses it is using the same solution. It's, as it's mentioned down in the key components, configurable but not customizable. The examples being any kind of online software you would use, whether it's Google, where you can change the colors and make it do different things, but behind the scenes, everybody uses the same Google solution. So what that does is that really shortens the timeline for implementation. At their user conference last fall, they were on stage touting a guarantee might be a bit of a strong word, but they were telling everybody that 12-month implementation on this is the goal of what they're looking for across the board in all their businesses. They have 68,000 customers worldwide, so Infor is a big company with a 99% on-time delivery of their solutions. Now they have lots of other solutions besides just this. They have solutions that are focused on more industrial or food service operations. They have acquired a lot of software companies over the years. So anyway, that's their complete customer base. So we do have, or the plan is to start in October with that 12-month implementation timeline, and then a little bit of wiggle room in there in the event that we need a little extra time to go live in January, and those kind of 2 times being the most optimal for when district operations, whether it's the hiring season or W-2s and payroll, the end of all the payment cycles, that either October or January are kind of the 2 best times for that. So again, some of the key components of the implementation of this, change management is built into the contract as a key component of that. Training, both power user training and some online training that's available for end users. The multi-tenant cloud-based solution. So again, a system that you don't customize, you can't customize, and allows for quicker fixes to the system overall. Configurable, not customizable, so you can make it do what you need it to do. It's designed for that, but you can't get in and sort of change the back end of it. Fully integrated systems and mobile applications, certainly with a more modern system, has a lot of features built into that. Approval of things where you in the past you'd have to sit at a terminal to do that, or a laptop or whatever. Now you can do those things on your phone. So that's the end. Questions?
And it's a lot of money.
And it's a lot of money.
That's my question.
Yes.
I know we've been budgeting for this. Is this all still within budget, or is there a budgetary impact going forward?
I would say that there will be additional budget impact. It's 2 years out, just because of the timing of this. So for implementing October to October, any extension of that would be into the 21-22 year. So it's a ways out as far as what the impact would be.
Do we know what it is? Can we start putting money away? Are we good for this budget?
So I would say that we're good for next year. We would definitely will start planning on that. And like any large construction project, putting in a contingency would be a good practice for us. So we do have the resources available to do that, to set them aside. And in the event it's not used, it gets returned to the project, so to speak. So.
Okay, any questions, Rob?
Just a few comments. I thank you, Bill, for presenting. I think it's important for the board and the public to know and understand that we're taking on such a significant project. It will touch everyone on the business side of the house, and folks in schools who do anything with money or with people are going to have a new system to learn and implement. And so that is significant change. It's not change we take lightly. I think that the team, and with my strong encouragement, decided to pause as opposed to moving faster so we could best communicate what is actually going to be happening and best understand the change. But this will be a significant change, and as we talk about bandwidth of our organization and of our people, come next October, our people are just going to be learning. Some of our folks have been using the old system for 10, 11 years. And when your job is to use the system and the system changes, your job changes. Right? So I just want to be very aware as we head into this. We have to move forward. We think this is a great product, but there will be significant impact, not only through just the central officer Bill's team, in all of our schools, with folks that use this system. And so ERP implementations, I've been through them, they are tough, but we think that with the planning and the change management piece and communicating early and often, we will do the best we can to support our employees as we transition from old to new.
All right. Stacy?
I might have missed this, and if I did, I apologize. But during the customization part of it, are our staff involved in that? Or is it just the staff that you pay for to do it?
You mean the configuration, not the customization?
Well, yes, configuration, not customization, yes.
So they do have a whole team that is the implementation team coming with their firm. And so there's what do we need the system to do? Having them help us understand what it can and can't do. And then what pieces can be configured. Are there, they call them process flows, and so it's a way to deliver information or a transaction that needs to happen, how to get that built and go to the right people and places. So they have a team that helps build those, but also trains our team to be able to build them down the road so that we can build them. So it's really a team effort.
Okay. All right. Shall we move on? Thank you so much. That was great. 6.3, legislative update. Any news? Kathy?
Mostly what I have, we've seen in information from Ernestine, but to the extent the public doesn't know that, I thought I'd just highlight a few quick things. One is they had figure setting at the JBC for education, and I'm not optimistic we're going to see a big buy down in the negative factor. Hard to say. The JBC postponed that because they said they wanted to wait and see what the cost of living factors were, so we don't know what that buy down is going to be. The governor's request for money for early childhood, they did not grant to him, And they also employ an RFI process, which I found interesting, and they're doing an RFI on all their grants. And we got a memo on all of the grant funding, and it's really not as easy as we think because federal money comes into us as grants too. So trying to distinguish between federal grants and local grants and all of that, you can't just across the board say we hate grant funding because so much of what we get is grant funding. So it'll be interesting to see what they come up with the RFI and what they find about that. One thing they did include in the budget was an increase in CSI funding, which I think some people have had a little bit of angst over because that's money that goes out of the general fund to the CSI. And I think we need to have at some point a longer discussion about whether that's an appropriate use of general fund money because it's just for mill levy override. So I also, we've been talking every week about whether the uniform mill levy legislation is going to drop. And every week I hear, well, the deadline is this week. And I think we're running out of time because we're going to get the forecast next week, and then we're going to go straight into school finance and all of that. So I am losing optimism, not that I ever was totally optimistic that we're ever going to see anything on the uniform mill levy or the mill levy override legislation. Is that a fair statement? They might not be separated? Might be separate. Yeah, well, so there's as we all know, they've combined two bills which probably shouldn't have been combined because it really made it onerous and hard to understand. But I don't know that we're going to see either of them come out because if they separate them, it's still really going to be tricky to figure out how to fund the mill levy override piece. So I guess in April we'll have a whole lot more information because we'll know what the budget forecast is and how much of the money is going to be going to coronavirus mitigation, and then the other thing that's still out there is how much money to give to the rural schools, because every year they've been getting about 30 million, 20 to 30 million, and I think there's still some empathy for giving the rural schools money, but they have to quit calling it one-time money since they've been getting it for every year for the last 3 years, but I think there's some support for trying to figure out how to do that. So that's my legislative update.
And Vision 2020 has.
I didn't think that was legislative, but.
You don't think that's legislative? Oh, okay.
But Vision 2020 dropped their, they're out, they were going to start gathering signatures on March 19th. We'll see if that event actually goes forward on March 19th, given the coronavirus. But the takeaway from it that I think is important is that for 95% of people, it's an income tax reduction. For the other 5%, it's a pretty significant income tax increase. It'll raise about $2 billion. And to the parents who are here wondering about class size, the actual language in the ballot measure says that 50% of that has to go to education. So if it passes, we haven't had a great track record of these things passing, but they've worked really hard over the last 5 years figuring out messaging. They're calling it the Fair Tax Colorado measure. So we'll see. So
November.
And we already know that our friends who don't like these kinds of increases have several proposals in front of Title Board. One to lower, first of all, we have to vote on fees, which right now, we don't have to vote on fees, and another one to lower the tax rate. So like we saw with transportation, I think we'll see some competing ballot measures coming from people to try to confuse. I think it's going to be a crowded ballot, I guess is what I'm saying. And we'll have to see what actually gets through. I think they have until the end of next week to get all their titles figured out, and then we'll see in April where they are.
Hey, other questions? Yeah?
I would just like to say that when in our Denver area school superintendent consortium, I guess, I'm not sure what DASC stands for, all the Denver Metro superintendents get together. We had Susan Mee come and talk to us about Initiative 271, and I'm just compelled to share with this team. I think that this is something we may want to take a leadership role in the sense of helping organize and coordinate our message around what would be the things that we would spend those dollars on. I think that there was, the conversation we had is that a lot of districts had good ideas, but there wasn't a consistent playbook potentially on how we go about doing this. And so know that I'm engaged in this. I think that I've at Case, Winter Case, we saw, I listened to Carol Hedges, is that correct, from Vision 2020, and feel just compelled to really lean in to see how we could help and support. From my understanding, Amendment 73 was 87,000 votes short. Right, and if you think we have 178 districts, and the math becomes very doable, and if we have the right messaging, and if districts do the right things, and so I just plan on being engaged. I think it's important, and as we think about funding in the state of Colorado, if we don't repeal Tabor, then we're going to have to find other funding. So I just wanted to share that with the board to let you know that I'm going to be as active as I can as we think about this.
And thanks, Rob, because I'm not sure it's going to be an overly well-funded campaign again. So a lot of the effort's going to be grassroots and collecting signatures and building up that grassroots support. So I think that whatever the district decides to do is going to be really helpful, because I don't think we're going to see money rolling in to support this.
So that's something at some point the board should come together and give direction on that. So oddly, that would be a resolution. Okay. All right, the next item is 7 action items, consent grouping. 7.1 personnel items, 7.2 approval of minutes February 25th, 2020 regular meeting, 7.3 cancellation of March 24th, 2020 board meeting, 7.4 Emerald Elementary baseball field temporary construction easement, 7.5 funding allocation approval and change order to the construction manager general contractor contract for bond funded improvement work at Mesa Elementary School, 7.6 resolution on coronavirus, 7.7 grant, student services, alternative learning program and services, EARSS grant, Colorado Department of Education 20. All right, anyone want to pull any items?
I do.
Yeah.
I'd like to pull 7.6.
7.6 resolution on coronavirus, okay. Any other items to be pulled? All right, do I have a, yes?
I have a question on 7.7, but I don't know, should I pull it?
No, well, if you want to vote, maybe vote no, you should pull it.
No, I'm not going to vote no. I
Okay,
have a question.
yeah, you
on
could
it.
just do a, so next we're going to do a motion and then we'll do questions. And so can we have a motion to approve by Kitty and seconded by Stacy? And now do you have any questions about any of the items? We'll start with Richard.
Richard?
Do you want to ask your question?
Yeah. Let me get to it first. On the description and justification for that particular grant application, I think it's a great grant application, but my question is, what are we doing now relative to what that particular description is talking about doing if we get the grant money? If we don't, do you see what I'm saying? Because it's talking about providing services for kids that have been expelled, suspended, on truancy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that those grant dollars are going to be to provide services to these kids. What is it that we're doing now for those particular kids?
Oh, hi, thanks. So to answer specifically related to the grant that we are pursuing right now, we do have alternative methods for students. However, the timeline is such that it's very hard to transition students back into school when that time is up. If we are awarded this grant, that transition time would very much focus on success back to school versus academic success in a program. So typically now students go to BU or they have the option to apply for Arapahoe Ridge. That's a very different solution than trying to get them stabilized, established, and then back into a comprehensive high school if they want to go back, because we don't have an alternative setting that allows for that specific intervention around whatever they may need with social emotional support. So the goal of the plan would be to provide an alternative learning system that would, one, address the specific needs of students in their growth areas around SEL, that social emotional support, while they're going through counseling or therapy or whatever. And then additionally, we also have a fair number of students who are accelerating behaviors that we possibly haven't seen before. And we want to make sure that we have a location for those students to find success as they're transitioning back and forth from their comprehensive high school back to whatever comprehensive high school or whatever program they're moving to. So that's the purpose of the grant.
Thank you. The reason I'm asking is because I know two situations right now, and I've already informed Rob about those two situations, where kids have not been going to school since October.
Yep, thank you.
Can I ask a quick question? I'm sorry. Can it be used at all for 8th grade as well, or just high school?
So our purpose right now is really to build a transition at high school as the first capacity, because that's the large number right now. We do recognize, and some of our partners that we reached out to in planning for this grant have done all the way through kinder. So as you see kindergarten behaviors accelerate, you know, and we do, we are confident that we would be able to address high school, middle, and then hopefully not, but eventually elementary if we needed to.
Okay, sorry. Okay. Great. Laura, would you please call the roll?
Garcia.
Yes.
Gebhardt.
Yes.
Marquis.
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
Sargent.
Yes.
Sweeney Moran.
Yes.
Zis.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, so our next item is number 8, action items. 8.1, items pulled from consent grouping. We pulled 7.6, resolution on coronavirus. Kathy, first we need a motion to approve.
I want to approve, but I have a question that might involve a modification. That's why I wasn't sure how to proceed.
I think we need to start with a
Motion and then-
Yeah, and then you can amend.
So a motion to approve.
Yeah.
Second.
Okay.
So I recently received from Fairview, our policy for the district is that any single period absences won't be excused without a doctor's note. And I know that CU just changed their policy for all their students that said that no longer will you need a doctor's note to have an excused absence. And I don't know that this sentence in number 2 actually addresses that, so that was my question. Because I don't think we want to be stricter on our absence policy right now. I think we want to loosen it a little bit. And what Fairview sent out last week was just a reminder that you can't have an excused absence without a doctor's note, without any explanation. So I want to make sure that we make it really clear that we're loosening our absence policy and not making it tighter. So I just wasn't sure if 2 covered that, because it seems like when you read it in context, it's just if you're home for up to 2 weeks, doesn't cover single period or partial day absences.
So I think, and I'll have Kathleen potentially chime in here. The intent of this resolution was really to create some clarity around, you know, our and direction around just this situation. I don't know that we considered if somebody is keeping their child home because they're worried they're going to get coronavirus, or they're worried that they're sick, that we'd want them there at all during that day. Like, so I don't know by period attendance. I think that would be better addressed in our attendance policy. I don't know that if the team considered in the context of this resolution, we're going to keep you home for a couple periods and then send you back in. Because the premise would be that, you know, if you want to keep your kids home because you know you're immunocompromised, or somebody in your family is, that you're staying home as a precaution, as opposed to, you know, I'm coming in late or
Well, but Rob,
leaving
we're
early.
trying, our healthcare officials are going to be overwhelmed. And so if what we're saying is that for any single period absence, you still have to go to your doctor and get that, I just don't think that's the reasonable approach to take right now. And for example, my daughter had a fever of about 99. This was the other night. I kept her home. It's not over the top, to make sure she was okay in the morning. So I wasn't going to take her to the doctor to get a note to get her absence excused, but that's what our policy requires. So I think in these circumstances, we shouldn't be burdening our healthcare officials, and we shouldn't be burdening our families and making them worried. I think we should loosen our absence policies and not stick by this one because of the extraordinary circumstances. So I feel pretty strongly about this. As you can tell, and like I said, I think CU has done that, and so why BVSD would say you still have to go get a doctor's note seems extraordinarily unforgiving right now.
So, and my question is, so we get a lot of comments about the single absence period. I'm sure this is not the first time you've heard about it. And there's parents have had pushback for it for years. Do you want to change over time, or are you looking for a temporary change?
I'm looking for a temporary change and a longer conversation much later, but just temporary for right now. The message to our parents is we understand. We're giving you the flexibility without having to go to a doctor during the coronavirus outbreak. That's all I'm saying. And I don't think this addresses it. I certainly am not trying to change our policy by this.
Okay, I mean,
No,
yeah.
that's not what I'm trying to do.
Okay, I'm just wondering, because it is a tricky one, and I know that there are good reasons why we do it, and I know it also has a lot of frustration as well, so.
Kathy, can I ask how a single period absence would look? I mean, I could see that might impact the school a lot to have someone leave for one period, let's say third period, and then they're back fourth period. How, and it has nothing to do with the virus.
Don, all I'm saying is I think asking our families to go get doctor's notes during this time when the doctors are going to be overwhelmed with trying to deal with really sick people is not a reasonable request. And we have to have faith that our community will not abuse this. I don't think that they will. So I think we're saying to our community, we trust you to be reasonable in this, and we're giving you the flexibility to implement this for your children and your families as you see fit.
Thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to say I agree. I think lots of times as a parent, I'll wake up, my kid's not at his best, and I'm not sure whether or not to send him to school, and being able to hold him 2 periods. For third period, for example, I can imagine a kid feeling like they were coming down with something, not feeling so well, heading home, eating a snack, getting a little rest, and then saying, you know, it wasn't coronavirus, I just should have gotten more sleep last night. But if our goal is to say, if you're symptomatic, if there's a possibility that you have this, don't be in school. I feel like the goal is to say there's as much flexibility as possible for you to exercise these absences when you need them. And we would rather have you come back if you've erred on the side of too much caution rather than be gone for the entire day because you tried to make a call that it turned out you didn't need to make.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. And also, if you're missing 1 or 2 periods because you already had an appointment, you're going to get that note. You don't have to worry about it. But if it's the circumstance like Lisa said, I agree, we shouldn't have to worry our parents with that and overwhelm the care providers.
Anyone else? And so is there concern, do you think, from administrators because this wasn't vetted with principals?
Well, I think that, and I'll let Kathleen speak. You know, obviously we want to be flexible and we want to be reasonable, and we're preparing for a time that we haven't lived yet, which could be, folks can't get to the doctor, right, and they're ill, or I think that we want to prepare for that. We haven't vetted this. We haven't pressed this or shared this with principals at this point. And so that would be pretty significant change, right? Because in regards to how they manage this, whether the way that we do it today is right or wrong, it's a significant change. And so I'm feeling a little bit of discomfort, not because what you all are saying isn't, not that it's not, that there isn't validity to what you're saying, but it's the fact that tomorrow we would say, well, the board did, we passed this resolution and nobody checked in with principals on the impacts that maybe I'm not able to articulate here. Hey, Kathleen, do you have additional thoughts?
Can I say something, Rob? We
Sure.
don't meet again until April. So if we don't do something tonight to give direction, then I think we have fallen down on our responsibility to our families because a state of emergency was just declared today. So if we wait for 3 to 4 weeks, we aren't being very helpful. So
I was just saying
out.
I'm not comfortable. Obviously we're going to have to act tonight. I think that would be my concern if we move forward.
Could I suggest language that says something like, where is this?
So, because I am a competent lawyer, we did write in language in this resolution that would allow us to evolve with the situation. I think the intent of paragraph 2 was certainly to make the attendance policy more flexible. We're trying to balance that with a lot of things right now, including known truant families. So it's really difficult to make a broad statement about what's going to apply in every case. But if you look at paragraph 8, this resolution does delegate to the superintendent the authority to make a detailed plan consistent with the resolution, that gives us the ability then to make sure we're talking with our building leaders and coming up with a solution that balances that need to be more flexible with attendance so that families make good choices about where their kids should and shouldn't be based on their immediate circumstance, while still having the ability, I think, to adopt a resolution tonight that really empowers the district to be responsive to these changing conditions.
So can that be the direction, that this is a starting point and that principals should consider being flexible with absences, but they're going to have to, we're all going to be evolving as this moves forward?
I think what I'm hearing from the board is if we adopt this today, my direction would be to quickly convene with high school principals, to share with them the thoughts and the ideas and the premise of what we're doing. And unless there's significant pushback or significant issues that we haven't considered, to move forward in that direction. Is that, as I'm kind of trying to
That sounds fair to me.
Does that sound reasonable?
Well, it also applies to middle school, so I'll leave it up to you how you implement that or how you have the conversation. I think starting with high school is a good idea, but it's an across-the-board policy. Obviously not a big issue in elementary school because you don't have the period issues.
Yeah, I don't think
So I'm looking at our area superintendents who are nodding that they'll be able to do that, and then once we've done that, then we can communicate that to you all, and we'll communicate that out to families on what we've done, why we've done it, and what it's not intended to do, and then we can actually monitor and see, what's happening, and then we can get feedback from schools.
Well,
That'd be a good test run on a potential future policy change if that's the direction. So.
We're not saying parents don't have to check in and tell the school why their kids are being absent, so it goes to your truancy point. I mean, you still have to call and say why your kids, so we're not obliterating that, we're just saying you don't have to have a doctor's note, so we're not burdening our healthcare professionals if, like Lisa's example, and the only choice you have right now, and I've seen it happen at Fairview, where families are sent back home because their kids are going to be unexcused, because they don't have the doctor's note rather than being in school and learning. So I think during this extraordinary time, we need to be a little flexible.
So thanks for polling the principals. So, and that does give you pretty broad authority. Thanks for reading that again. See lots of neat things. Keep us up to date with what you do. All right. Any other comments? All right. So would you like to call the roll?
Garcia.
Yes.
Gebhardt.
Yes.
Marquis.
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
Sargent.
Yes.
Sweeney Moran.
Yes.
Zis.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. The next item is agenda setting. We are not meeting for a pretty long time.
So Tina, what was it you wanted us to remind you to say in agenda setting?
Oh, I know what it is. I want to change our public participation policy so that people who need translation services automatically get 4 minutes or 4.5. I don't know what the number is, but because it's sort of tricky, because I would like to rather have a clear process rather than winging it. So thank you.
I think we agreed that at the next meeting, we're going to talk more about the follow-up from those things tonight with the early childhood education and with the ICE conversations. I wanted to add to that as part of our conversation about equity and students of color, that we've done some RFIs around the percentages, the discrepancies with SPED and TAG and disciplinary rates. And it's my hope that we can have a more in-depth conversation, not about long-term strategic planning, but about specific actions that are happening in schools today and this week and next month for our students that are on the wrong end of these numbers, specifically in schools where it feels like maybe the principals haven't taken up action on their own initiative. What is the district doing to make sure that we're protecting and working with our Latinx kids in particular and our students of color in general in these schools to make sure that their educational experience is equitable?
Richard?
The presentation that the Avid kids made in terms of family separation reminded me a little bit about the fact that we have a lot of our kids that are going to school that are not citizens of this country. And I want to get back to maybe discussing a little bit more about the Pledge of Allegiance. And what we can do, I don't know if there's a policy that tells us that we have to pledge the allegiance at every school board meeting. I'm not sure where that is, but I'd like to have a discussion on that.
Sorry, just if I can jump back in, I would be very enthusiastic about that discussion as well, and I have a lot of questions as well.
And we might be getting ready for a prioritization meeting, so this is probably good. We haven't done one in a while, so anything down here? Okay, because that might be a good, yeah, we haven't done that in a long time.
We haven't done it since we have new board members, so I think that'd be really important.
Well, the Broadmoor, sort of.
Well, kind of, but yeah.
Okay. Anything else? No? All right. Well, I hope everybody stays healthy, and I hope I will see you personally in April. We'll see.